Normally, I start these reviews off with a condensed history of a game franchise, yada yada yada, but I feel that with Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, I think it'd be more fitting if I gave a metaphorical story on what the Pokemon franchise has morphed into, since there's only so many ways you can review a game franchise that doesn't change fuck all year after year. I think anyone who's used the internet for a while can relate to this story. Let's just say you meet someone online who is a pretty cool guy and ends up being your friend. He's a cool guy with a good sense of humor and you two can relate, and you do lots of things online together, from playing video games to voice chatting all the time. Then one day or over a slow period of time you lose contact and it ends there. Fast forward a few years later and you find this person again on social media or somewhere, either through curiosity or from someone telling you about them that, like, oh, you remember this guy? This is his new account now. They're the same person, yet something's a bit off about them. They've changed so much that they're no longer the same interesting person you knew, except in name only, and in some cases, not even that. They're not fun to talk to anymore. They're just an angsty, perpetually depressed, and angry at the world shell with the name and body of the previous person. Maybe one day you think that you'd want to reach out to them and talk to them. Get back in touch, talk about the good old times, and make their life better. But sorry, they've pre-blocked you because you've wound up on a block list you had no idea even existed for Raw and Think, because someone didn't like what you said on social media one day and they decided to put you on a block list because you're thinking the wrong thoughts, you bigot. Whoops. Their social media has devolved to negativity only, and here you are staring at them in disbelief that this was the friend you once knew. You don't even want to regain contact with them at this point, as not only are they a problem waiting to happen, but they're dead to you. Someone else with the same name took over their body, and you're never ever going to get the old one back. If they've burned off all their support bridges while surrounding themselves with like minded yes men who enable all their poor decisions, cutting off those who think differently, and started hard drugs or prescriptions, you can change that to never. They're never going to be the same old person you once knew. Or worse, you don't even lose contact with this person. They slowly turn into this over time, and you're left powerless as everything you say is ignored as they suck up to people who say yes to everything. All you can do is spend a few hours to a few days trying to process to yourself. So this is what your old friend is like now. He's utterly crazy, isn't the same person you once knew, and yet he has the same body as the old person. You spend time pondering questions. Were there any signs beforehand? Was there anything you could have done? Was all that time you spent with your friend just a goddamn waste of time, knowing what he would turn into? And that is what it's like with Pokemon now. Back in the day, Pokemon was a big video game franchise, selling millions and millions of copies. At one time, I was a huge Pokemon fan. That's why I set my YouTube channel name to Gligar13vids back when I made my channel in 2008. And that is why at one time, I imported not one, but two Pokemon games. I imported two fucking Pokemon games to get them earlier. I did that because I was that much of a Pokemon fan. And yet, as someone who has been a fan of it for a while and is now an ex-fan, it has just gone down the fucking toilet hard. Sure, Pokemon was an easy game, but now it's become marginally easier than a mobile game, except without the microtransactions, as they try to chase the mobile game audience. The audience that, in the words of the devs, doesn't have time anymore for a game that was already easy. I still remember when X and Y came out, I think around that time, there was an interview in Game Informer magazine where the devs basically straight up said that they're fucking targeting these games to the mobile crowd. That's who Pokemon is for, mobile gamers. And they even said that they've tried to target these games to people who don't have time to play Pokemon anymore because they're on their phones. So what they do is they make them for those people and whatnot. That's who their audience is now. You can tell Pokemon games have had terrible production values for a while, especially with the laughable graphics of all the Pokemon titles on the 3DS. You can tell that it's like Star Wars in the sense that it's solely a brand name for toys and shitty blockbuster flicks that meant something at one time. That, like, at one time Star Wars was worth watching, and now it's just another popcorn flick to watch and see shit blow up in. And it meant something at one time, but now it means go to Walmart and buy a new Droid toy for your smartphone to connect to. And it's heavily marketed in stores. Oh look, you see these new Star Wars toys that connect to your smartphone? Bam! Look what's right next to it. Star Wars Episode 7. And bam, look what's right next to that. Star Wars Rogue One on Blu-ray Ultra 4K 3D with a digital download link. Buy it today. Give us money! And the new Star Wars film doesn't even come out for another month, and they've been heavily marketing that shit for weeks. And the same applies with Pokemon. You know that you're going to see copies of Pokemon next to the Target checkout on launch day and not long after launch day. And before it comes out, you're going to see GameStop saying to pre-order it today to get some stupid-ass poster. And once it's already out, well, you know, you're still going to have 10 copies of it at GameStop already lying around waiting for you. They could shit out a bad video game, it'll sell millions, just like how the prequels of Star Wars were massive at the box office. After all, there's millions of kids and lonely furries out there, and I saw at least one person call Pokemon games for what they are. Madden for furries. And they don't care if some older fans ditch the series, because you know what? Plenty of people are going to see the brand name and eat it up anyway, even as older fans lose interest or sigh when it's shown at E3 or Nintendo Direct. For every former fan who sighs, 10 people are going to eat up the new Pokemon game and say it's the best game ever. This is my mindset going into Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. A game that will be utterly forgettable a month or so after it comes out, just like every other Pokemon game. Unless, of course, you're a hardcore Pokemon fan who only plays Pokemon games, only listens to the Pokemon soundtrack in their Hyundai, and only has Pokemon plushies in their shitty apartment and in their back of their Hyundai. I've seen it before. So what is Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? Well, it's a third version for Pokemon games. Now, what is that, you might ask? Well, it's what other publishers like to call free title updates or DLC packs, except it's full priced. There's a few minor changes and that's it. However, this time it's split into two versions to ensure that hardcore Pokemon fans who buy anything with the brand name on it will buy it twice thanks to their Uncle Sam, who gives them tons of money for Nintendo games each year. And there's even a 2-pack for those nerds. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are also the last 3DS Pokemon games, as we all know that they're already developing a new Pokemon game for the $300 Nintendo Switch. So, if you want to buy the Pokemon game, it's still going to be on your old-ass 3DS instead of the all-new Switch, despite what hopeful fan fantasy rumors were saying. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon are proof that the yearly game release model is running its course, along with the newer Call of Duty titles. The game is pretty much a copy-paste of Sun and Moon, with some tweaks and a slightly different story, for the price of a full-fledged 3DS game. You start the game up, and the intro is the goddamn same as Pokemon Sun and Moon. That's right, $40! Now, what's the gameplay like? Well, it's casual and streamlined, exactly like Sun and Moon was. You walk forward, hear this dumbass story that no one gives a shit about, and you wait as it drags on. And then you get into easy battles anyone can win. Here's a good metaphor for it. Imagine you're in your mid-20s and you're still living with your parents. They're draconian and controlling, as they still haven't gotten through their heads that you're no longer their little sweetie, and they still want you to do all the little shit for them, and they still want you to hold their hand when Windows 10 messes up again, and they still want you to call them every few minutes when you leave the house, because guess what? You might be 20 something, but to them, you're still 14 years old. You're still that teenager who's going to make shitty decisions, and who they can't trust. You're thinking through their head every day as you have to live a life structured around their life and not yours. Dear God, I'm too old for this shit. I just want to find my own goddamn path in life. And yet you can't get a decent job and move out of your hellhole because all the decent jobs got outsourced after companies made excuses how they didn't have enough qualified applicants or some bullshit after they set the bar too damn high, and all the entry-level jobs want a year of experience. How the fuck are you going to get that year of experience? But yet, there are some people who choose to live this lifestyle until their mom dies and they're likely on the street. And those are the kinds of people who still play Pokemon that happen to be over the age of 15. The people who can't grow up. The people who want to live with mommy and daddy still when they're in their 20s. When they're no longer mom's little sweetheart, but a failure who doesn't want to go anywhere and improve their life and their situation. They don't want a job. They just want a Patreon account and whatever that goddamn buy me a coffee site is. I don't know its fucking name. And that's what playing Pokemon feels like when you're over that age. It feels like you're playing a game intended for little kids, yet you're a grown-ass adult. It's like visiting a nerd meetup at a college campus. There are so many neckbeards doing cringeworthy shit that you ask yourself, why the fuck am I here? Except you're asking yourself, why the fuck am I playing a game clearly for little kids? Sure, you can be a Pokemon fan and make memes and excuses saying, oh, little kids play Call of Duty and real men play Pokemon. But guess what? You're not fooling anybody but yourself when you say that. Because people are going to look at you in public. People will look at you in the subway, in the city bus, in college. They'll see you with your little 3DS and they'll be like, God damn, that guy's a man-child. Now, sure, some hardcore Pokemon fan is going to type out in the comments about how Pokemon is a hard game. What they'll also do is talk about turning some option off or using Nuzlocke or something else. The thing is, when you're going out of your way to make playing an easy game hard, at that point, what's stopping you from just walking into your GameStop and buying Shin Megami Tensei and playing that instead? Or literally any other role-playing game that's harder than Pokemon. I mean, shit. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, for example. That game had a hard mode. That's a similar type of game, if you know what I mean. And that game had a fucking hard mode in it. Pokemon doesn't. With Pokemon, you're just crippling yourself to make the game harder. Like, seriously, there are tons of role-playing games besides Pokemon that offer difficulty out of the box. It's like the only reason gamers are introducing artificial difficulty into Pokemon is they want a harder game that still makes their magic stick hard too. In fact, there's a new hidden Pokemon in it that hackers found days before the release date, and there's already a bunch of porn of it. Also, if you're a furry, here's a hidden cheat code. You don't need to buy the game to jack off to the porn of it. Wow, I just saved you $40. The graphics of Ultra Sun and Moon are the same piss-poor graphics of Pokemon X and Y, complete with the much-despised outlines that even hardcore Pokemon fans seem to hate, by the fact that there are no outline patches available for Pokemon games that actually improve the graphics. If you want to play online with them, however, you'll probably get banned from the online service because Nintendo now bans custom firmware users. Nintendo is just like Infinity Ward was with the PC. They want you to play the game the way they designed it and only the way they designed it. The music is dull and forgettable. You'll hear only about 5 minutes of it before muting it and putting on some good music like, say, the Yes album in an attempt to make the game more epic as you sing dun 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 before you realize it's a waste of good music and you go back to playing better games because guess what? Pokemon's a piece of shit game that nobody over the age of 15 plays with a straight face. All in all, I don't get why anyone over the age of 12 would play this. But then again, I remembered that there are nerds with thousands of hours in Second Life, Gary's Mod, and Roblox. I guess I'm no longer in the target audience for Pokemon. Maybe if I drank more soy milk and absorbed BPA from water bottles and receipts, I'd still be in the audience for Pokemon. But I'm a grown man, and Pokemon has only gotten worse. And maybe I should be looking at this in a different manner. Maybe I should be applauding Nintendo for doing what so many AAA companies only dream of doing. For example, with Call of Duty, which is another franchise commonly criticized for copy-pasting, World War II feels different than Infinite Warfare. Yet with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you can play this game and holy shit, it'll feel just like Sun and Moon, down to the same fucking gimmick, and fans will pay $40 for the same fucking game again. Sometimes $80 for both. So if you think about it, it's a genius way of making money from a certain crowd that lives on Uncle Sam's or their parents' money. As for me, I'll only remember this shitty game when I'm trying to search for Sun Ultras on eBay because I'm into that hobby more than gaming. And this comes up on eBay instead of a Sun Ultra. and I'm reminded this piece of shit game exists. That is all, gamers. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more. Now I'm gonna go play better games, because fuck Pokemon Sun and Moon. It's a piece of shit game. I don't get why anybody would play it, but then I remember Pokemon's fan base.